Don't forget to check out our sponsor, The Health Blaze, at thehealthblaze.com. 100% all natural products from lotions, soaps, foot soaks, bath bombs, and much, much more. Use the promo code Goodfella1Boxing. Tell them your boy CJ Goodfella sent you, get 18% off. We out.
All right, man, let's talk about The Last Dance last night. Parts 8 was part 7 and 8. It wasn't the best episode. I think the last two was the best one. That went down was 5 and 6. But 7 and 8 was very, very revealing. I think it had a lot of drama to it. But let's talk about it. Hit that subscribe button, bell icon button. Check our NBA Talk playlist for more videos like this. And I say it had the most drama in it because it detailed some things that went on in Jordan's career after they three-peated, and his father was killed, and then he had a gambling investigation, and then he walked away for 21 months. And some people that didn't follow basketball through the 90s thought that Jordan won 6 straight, and that's how they made it. That's how they kind of perceived it, but it didn't go that way. But yeah, it kind of detailed him winning his last title and stuff, and they three-peating, and basically he said that he already made the decision with his father that he was gonna go play baseball, and he was retired. He was mentally and physically exhausted. And what people gotta understand is, playing in 1 or 2 championships, making deep playoff runs, it ain't that you ain't good enough no more to repeat or make three-peat. It's a lot of luck involved in that shit. It's a lot of luck involved, or blessings, whatever make you feel better. Because you got to be healthy for 3 seasons or 2 seasons. And then, everybody else playing into April, maybe into May. You playing into June every year. And then on top of that, you got the media obligations. Everybody got a show. Everywhere you go, people hounding you. And then you got all these endorsements you're getting every year. So, to keep repeating it and making deep playoff runs, it's more mentally exhausting than it is physically exhausting. So people don't understand why Jordan was exhausted. You see what he did on a day-to-day basis when he was in the league. He can't even take a piss by himself. And for him to step away to baseball, that was a critical moment in the sports world because he had a gambling investigation going on. Now, the word on the streets was that even though, despite what David Stern said on there, and everybody else was saying, oh, Michael told me he was going to do this, I don't believe none of them clear people, bro. As far as they word, you know what I'm saying? But it was the word on the street was that Michael was stepping away because it was kind of like a suspension for him gambling. And people made the correlation with the gambling investigation that his father was killed over gambling debt. Now, I believe the 2 guys that killed his father were like 18 years old or something like that. And one of them up for parole pretty soon. So if that's the case, I don't see them hiring no 18-year-olds to kill no man. And I'm just going to keep it 100. Usually if you hire somebody over gambling debt, they probably going to get somebody more seasoned. That's just my opinion on it. If they truly was 18 years old and they did this, maybe they would hire 18-year-old. I don't know. Maybe it was the underplay for the overplay. Or the overplay for the underplay. But, they took him out of his car, shot him in his chest. He was asleep at a rest stop and dumped him over. It just sounded like some routine bull jive. But then it came into, so I don't think his father was killed over no gambling debt. Kind of looking at the situation in its entire totality, I don't believe so. But I do believe they made him walk away for the game. Part of his gambling investigation. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. But I'm not sure if it's true or not, but that was a huge thing going around. They had banned him from the NBA for 2 years, but he still was getting a paycheck. So probably was all a bull job, but you really don't know. But he went to baseball, and it shows that, he had a 13-game winning hitting streak, and, then he went cold. They would start throwing breaking balls at him. They kind of portrayed that in Space Jam, that he couldn't hit no breaking ball. And, he worked really hard at it, and he started batting like over 200, and that was good for somebody that didn't have a single A background or didn't go to college and play, baseball. So, he showed some real, talent as a baseball player, and a lot of people believe he would have went to the major leagues if he kept going, but it was a lockout, and eventually that helped push Jordan back to the league. But while that was going on, it kind of portrayed Scottie Pippen as the man, and how the Bulls were relieved that Jordan was gone, that they didn't have that mental and physical pressure, really mental pressure of Jordan hovering over them, trying to bring the best out of them, punching Steve Kerr in the eye and all that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And just being belligerent and dogging them verbally. Verbal abuse is worse than physical abuse in some forms. And he was just dogging them niggas out. And they asked Scottie. They were like, Scottie was a better leader. He was real patient. He wasn't as demonstrative as Mike was in the locker room. But it showed that Scottie, once again, punked out like a punk bitch. Hope. What'd he say to Scott Burrell? Where your mouth at now? Hope. that in the Knicks series, Phil drew up the game winner for Kukoc. Kukoc hit a few game winners that year. And Scottie Pippen was mad he didn't draw it up for him because he was having an MVP type year. I think he was second behind Hakeem Olajuwon in the MVP voting. And Scottie Pippen just bitched out. He just said, if the ball ain't going to me, I ain't playing. And long story short, Kukoc hit the bucket. They lost to the Knicks in the next game. And they said that Bill Cartwright was crying. That's crying in the locker room, emotional. That Scottie Pippen, left his teammates out to dry because the ball wasn't going to him. But that's Scottie for you. People, tell you how great Scottie is, and Scottie was a great player. But Scottie at times was a mental midget. After he left the Bulls, they came up short with Houston. They came up short with Portland, and a lot of that, Scottie was brought there to be the leader. And Scottie just wasn't a great leader. Just keeping it 100. People talk about Scottie Pippen. Jordan couldn't do it without Scottie. Without Michael mind and Michael pushing him, Scottie was punking out left and right. Scottie was a timid little dude. I like Scottie on TV. Liked him as a player. Like a lot of his shoes. But Scottie just wasn't mentally tough. Scottie would check out at times, man. And like I said with the bad boy Pistons, they didn't glorify when he refused to go in the game because of a migraine. And a lot of those teams that Scottie was a part of that had championship ambitions after the Jordan era, a lot of them took on that shortcoming mentality. Like I said, Houston and Portland. But, long story short, Jordan ended up coming back that season. 2 seasons later with 15 games to go. And physically, he thought he was Superman. Super bad, super fly. You know what I'm saying? My Mac 10, bitch, you can die. My Mac 10 voice. And, he found out that he wasn't just going to be able to come back in the league and dominate on a night-by-night basis, that baseball was a whole different physical demand. Baseball is, you generate power from baseball and boxing from the ground up. It's more, feet, legs, thighs, calves, hips, into the torso, and then chest and shoulders. And Jordan was saying the NBA is more arms, chest, and shoulders. So, he tried to come back, and, he had a bad game versus the Pacers, and then he dropped the double nickel game. He dropped 55 in Madison Square Garden, but he just didn't have the lift. And physically, they played the Orlando Magic in the Eastern Conference semifinals. He just couldn't do it. No, he couldn't do it at that point. And, people forget that he kissed the floor. They ain't show that shit neither. When he kissed the floor after losing to Shaq and Penny, and, kind of segued into talking about, I think the next episode kind of was talking about, how he prepared to beat Shaq and Penny the next year, and how he shot Space Jam and said that he needed to get in shape. And they created the Jordan Dome, a little air bubble where he had full court in there. He all his weightlifting, and him and Tim Grover would work out. It just showed his work ethic, man. I think a lot of people don't know how hard Michael Jordan worked. And he would shoot the movie, 6 days a week. What do you say, 7 hours? And then, after 7 o'clock or whatever, he would work out, train in between the break periods. And then, after 7, he would play until like 10 in the morning, 10 at night, against some of the NBA's best. Reggie Miller was out there, and that's how he prepared to get his body together. Chris Mullins came out there. Obviously, Sean Bradley, Patrick Ewing. I think he said Patrick Ewing might have been out there. They was doing the movie of Space Jam. It just showed how he worked to recapture this crown. So if you want to know if, how Michael Jordan, performed after a loss in his prime, you got to look at the Orlando Magic, even though it's an asterisk by that, because he just wasn't physically, healthy enough to he wasn't physically healthy enough or physically good enough to beat them. But the next year, he came back and he dominated them. All that work paid off. They had the best Bulls team. And one of the things that tweaked their team was bringing Dennis Rodman in. But he had never played with Luke Longley and Steve Kerr. And he made a comment like, they riding off our wave, but they wasn't here for a championship. And, Steve Kerr was put on, had to guard Michael Jordan by Phil Jackson. And Phil Jackson was trying to tame Michael Jordan down. And, he was calling ticky-tack fouls on Mike. And then, Steve Kerr said, I ain't no hoe. He elbowed Mike in the chest and Mike punched him and Phil threw him out. And Steve Kerr, got Michael Jordan respect by hitting back. But hey, ain't nobody punching me in my shit and just apologize. Me and Mike would have been fighting on that court. Mike just had a problem. Bill Cartwright really the only one that gorilla checked him, and Horace Grant, he wanted to get all tough, you know what I'm saying? And he wanted to get all tough and shit, you know what I'm saying? But after the situation, now about the food situation, a lot of people already knew about that, but kind of went into that. But after that, they kind of went into the, my mind a little streaky on this. They went on the Gary Payton situation and how Gary and they played the Sonics and they went up 3-0 and the Sonics came back to win 2 straight. And then, Gary Payton started talking junk, how he locking up Jordan. And Jordan said he had a lot on his mind. His father, Father's Day was coming up, and then they won a championship, stuff of that nature. But Gary Payton was a great defender. That's probably one of George Karl's better teams other than being in Milwaukee. And they just came up short. They was just a superior team. The Chicago Bulls, they had won 70-something games that year. And, they almost won 7 a few times, man. But, John Paxson said that ass one time. And, Jordan, defeated the Sonics that time. And they came back and won. So people make the case that, Scottie and them, they made it far in the playoffs, but they didn't win it without Jordan. And, I kind of went to the whole retirement thing on how they leaked that out about his retirement and how he was going to play baseball and how they, he had to leave out the, the playoffs baseball game. They was hounding him about retirement questions. But I think one of the things that truly stood out about this whole situation was the Scott Burrell thing. How he was talking to him, calling him a hoe, a bitch and shit like that. And just things you don't say to another man. But he brought it up that he was trying to bring the best out of Scott Burrell, or Carl Burrell, excuse me. He was trying to be in the, whatever his name was, Scott Burrell, whatever his name was. He was trying to bring the best out of him. And, Burrell just never really responded because he was a nice guy. And, he said they was going to need him, but he just never was a fiery guy, and the way he was talking to him, the way he was talking to his teammates. And, he said winning got a price to pay. And if he had to be the bad guy, he was willing to be the villain, you know what I'm saying, rather than lose. But it was straight 2 episodes, went into a lot of different things and how they playoff run with the Nets and how BJ Armstrong was talking stuff to him and dude from the Wizards was talking stuff. He made a story up about why he dogged him out. What's his name? LeBron Smith or whatever his name was. And he pretty much tortured him and BJ Armstrong, shaking him and hitting the shot to win in Charlotte, and then him destroying Charlotte. And then it ended off with him in the Pacer battle. That was one of the most epic battles that year. Reggie Miller might have been right. That team was giving Jordan fits. They was the better team that year. I remember watching that playoff series, man, but Jordan was just on some other shit. Reggie was hitting game winners. Jordan was hitting. That was one of the more memorable Jordan series I remember watching because I was a huge Reggie Miller fan, man. That's one of my favorite players of all time. He definitely in my top 10, but it's going to be interesting how they portrayed that because that team was really one of the best teams to never make it to the championship. Unfortunately, Reggie kept running into iconic teams. He ran into Shaq and Kobe, you know what I'm saying, and they got destroyed. But hey, let me know what you guys think, man, about, Last Dance Part 7 and 8, 9 and 10 next week, and then it's all over with. And then we can just talk about it in its entirety. Don't forget to check out our NBA Talk playlist. Don't forget me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You reach out if you have a business question, inquiry, response to your video question, just want to chop it up, want to make a donation, cash out, PayPal subscription. Appreciate the love, support. One time for the one time we done.